What is up, guys? Ben from MTP Health here, and today we're going to be talking about the training and rehab spectrum. Now, if you had a look at the movement hierarchy video and the 10 tips, you'll kind of understand this interplay that we have with our mobility and our strength, and why I believe that mobility is the number one key for you to achieve your optimal goals of performance, health, and fitness. Now, what exactly is the training and rehab spectrum, and why have I drawn this up? Well, initially this was an idea popularized by one of the great strength coaches in America, Charlie Weingroff. And it's the concept that our training should not be any different to our rehabilitation if we design a good program. You see, in my mind, and in the minds of a lot of great coaches, simply rehabilitation should be just good performance training. You might hear this quote a lot where people are going through rehab and the best performance training is actually rehabilitation, in the sense that performance training should be designed to prevent us from getting injured. And so that's where this continuum and spectrum comes from. So if on one end we have rehabilitation, on the other we have performance. Now firstly, I think we should define rehab or rehabilitation in this context. Now, the definition of rehab for what we're talking about is simply a return to prior performance. That's why it's called rehab. It's getting you back to where you were before to rehabilitate you to a prior level. Now that doesn't really leave a lot of optimism for the future, because it simply means that, well, if you got injured, then you're getting yourself back to the stage where you were injured beforehand. So I don't like to use the term rehab in its traditional definition sense, because it's implying that you're going to get someone only back to the level that they were at pre-injury, and they're not going to be any better. So chances are they're going to get injured again. Then if we look at performance on the other end, it's simply the ability to function at their absolute best in a specific activity. And so there's two ends of this continuum. And what the aim always will be to do is to get someone who is injured and move them from this rehab side up to performance. If all of these dots were levels, back on this end of the spectrum, there would be someone who's injured, and then you get them to a rehab level where they're at their level they were before, and then they start to progress further and further towards a performance level, and over here would be elite performance, or I should say over here, where someone is competing and performing at a high elite level. And so why do we draw this up, and why this distinction? Well, because I want to tell you that rehabilitation and injury prevention and all of that stuff, which sounds kind of boring and lethargic, is in fact what we all need to be doing and what we all are doing when we train well. This is the sexiest thing that we can work on as fitness enthusiasts, trainees and athletes. Rehabilitation is sexy, and that's the message that we're promoting at MTP Health, and that's what I want to get across with you guys, and it's a big part of our Freedom Mobility program, is convincing you and showing you the benefits of mobility, and that rehabilitation and injury prevention work is sexy because it allows you to perform at your absolute best. And so if we look down at this graph here, we kind of have this example being articulated. So what we see is this magic zone, right? It's where we combine mobility and strength together to get absolute magic. This is what elite performance is all about. You see, a change in range of motion of a few millimeters can have a huge impact in ability performance. If you look at sprinters, ask any sprinter what they would give to be able to increase their ankle dorsiflexion even by that much. I guarantee you they would give up just about anything to get that. And so what we see is this mobility and strength continuum into the magic zone. Now, you see, most people simply want to work here. If you looked at the movement hierarchy video, you'll see that most people are going around in this strength continuum, just kind of doing work that they feel like they need to do. They're bench pressing, they're doing standard movements, when they really should be working on their mobility. They have mobility limitations, they're at that top of the pyramid, they've got joint restrictions, they lack stability, and their body doesn't allow them into ranges of motion. And so that's going to affect their performance drastically. And ultimately it's going to affect their strength, because they're building strength on top of a range of motion or a mobility that they don't have. And this is what leads to injury and all sorts of problems. Now, if you have a look at our future videos and posts on the kinetic chain, you'll be able to see how this could cause an injury down the line. And so what we aim to do with the Freedom program is get you guys working in this magic zone. When we combine strength and mobility together, we're talking full range squats, Olympic lifters, they're some of the strongest people in the world. Well, that's where performance is at its absolute best. Because as a human body, we need to function through the fullest range of motion possible to be able to perform at our best. And this will be different depending on the activity that we individually do. And so that is a bit about the training equals rehab continuum and how we look to apply that within our performance continuum and within the Freedom Mobility program to help you perform at your absolute best. Thanks very much, guys, and as always, keep moving, stay mobile, and live free. I'll see you on the other side.